Imagine a knock on your door. You open and find a child welfare representative standing there. With compassion but a stern tone, they say, "I'm sorry to tell you, a report of neglect has come into the department, and as a result, your child will not be coming home from school today." What would you say? What would you do? My first reaction would be extreme anger, then confusion, then fear. It is every parent's worst nightmare to have their child taken away from them. But the reality is, one child is taken into the U.S. foster care system every 3 minutes. They are placed temporarily in the home of a state-licensed caregiver until their parent can provide a safe and stable environment for them to return to. The goal of foster care is permanence, either through reunification or through adoption. When reunification is the goal, it's rarely simple. It is a long, exhausting battle of case plans, court dates, mandated services, and a clock that never stops ticking. Parents are dropped into an unfamiliar system with high expectations and even higher stakes, and we have to ask, who is actually helping them navigate everything that's required? An overworked social worker? An underpaid public defender? And then there's the other side. Many caregivers come into foster care hoping to adopt, even though they're told from day one that reunification is the goal. But they've seen it happen. Friends, neighbors, relatives who've adopted through the system, and so they think, well, maybe this is our chance too. And suddenly, foster care isn't about policy or process. It's about people on both sides, often in direct conflict with one another. What if foster care wasn't about replacing families, but restoring them? What if the women fighting the very hardest battle of their lives weren't given a 365-day countdown to prove they deserve to be with their own children, to heal from their emotional scars, to overcome addiction, to obtain work, to secure housing and transportation, to rebuild an entire life all at once, but were instead given someone who had been there before, someone who had also survived addiction and abuse, someone who had had her own children taken away. She had fought her way back into long-term recovery, and she'd brought her family back home, not just surviving, but truly thriving. And what if foster parents, who biological families often see as adversaries, chose to truly listen and hear a mother's story, to understand and grasp why her life looks the way it does, and to exchange their judgment of her for understanding, and their opposition for partnership? What if they allowed their empathy to rise up so deeply within them that it wasn't just reserved for the children, but it extended to their parents as well? My family did not get into fostering with a grand vision of changing the system. It actually was something far more personal. Our daughter wanted a little sister more than anything in the world. It took us a long time to have her, and we couldn't have another. And so we decided to do something bold and pursue adoption through the foster care system. We knew that it often took several placements before families had an opportunity to adopt. Still, we moved forward. We truly believed it was our calling to adopt. What we didn't expect was the call from the Department of Family and Children's Services asking if we would take a sibling group of 4, ages 6, 4, 3, and 1, and add them to our biological 6-year-old daughter. And we certainly didn't realize how much work fostering required. The appointments, therapy sessions, court dates, trauma behaviors, the sheer everyday logistics of parenting 5 little ones at once. Well, then came the moment that would shape the rest of our lives. A short time after the children came to us, I took them to their first visitation with their mother, Christina. The instant they saw her, they ran. They threw their arms around her, hugging her so tight they knocked her down, crying, kissing her, she, them. And something inside me changed. I remember very distinctly saying, there is no way I can adopt these children away from their mother. But then I also knew that if she was going to get them back, she was going to need a lot of help from me. And right then, empathy collided with reality. Christina's first reunification was unsuccessful. The pull of addiction was far too strong. And so the children came back into care and back into our home. And even though it was no longer our intention, we thought we just might have to adopt. But then everything changed. She got herself into rehab. She did the work. Her life moved 180 degrees in the other direction. Adoption was off the table. She had done it. She had fought her way back to her children. And when their reunification was complete, we closed our foster home for good. And for months, I questioned what happened to our calling to adopt. Once Christina had her kids back and our relationship was cemented, we began to think about how our combined experiences could help families everywhere. I had had 10 children in my care, 4 of them twice, 5 years of fostering, and not a single placement ended in adoption. I questioned, what was all this for? Why were these children brought into our lives if it wasn't to adopt them? I asked that question in prayer until one day the answer came more clearly to me than at any other time of my life. The intention was never to adopt the children away from their mother. It was always to adopt the whole family for life. So once Christina and I sat down and we started to think about how our combined experiences could help families everywhere, we realized that was the shift. That was the calling. That was the clarity. That was the mission for the rest of our lives. We realized there were mothers, just like Christina, who were having their children removed, and they needed help navigating the child welfare system. We also saw foster parents quitting in droves because they were having their hearts broken when they had to say goodbye at reunification. Why don't we solve both problems simultaneously with one organization? And that is when Moms Adopting Moms was born. Together, we made a model that is seeking to solve a systematic problem that has plagued our communities for decades. It is a model grounded in empathy, partnership, resources, and lived experience, and it is working. I represent the foster parents and Christina, the biological, and together we are watching families rebuild, heal, reunify, and thrive, and it is simply miraculous. When biological parents are paired with a peer mentor they feel they can trust, and foster families adopt the whole family for life, a shift takes place. Trust and connection forms between the biological and foster mothers. Support becomes an action and not just an empty word. Reunifications happen faster and they're more successful. Foster parents don't say goodbye, giving them a second family and the children in their home a second family for life. And cycles of generational trauma finally begin to break. Nationally, the reunification rate sits just under 50%. Whereas for the mothers that are fully engaged in our program, that reunification rate is close to 90%. Also, the return to care for children nationally sits at 27% within just 24 months post-reunification, whereas none of the children moms adopting moms have helped reunify have re-entered care. And something else has happened along the way. We have become a valued partner to the Department of Family and Children's Services, lightening their load, building trust, and earning their respect. A DFACS leader once told us, "You are the missing piece to the system." We became the connection to the family they could never truly achieve, not because they don't care, but because they don't have the time, the lived experience, or the relational space to walk that closely with a mom. We fill the relational gap that has been broken in the system for decades. Moms Adopting Moms enables and empowers biological mothers. We take heartbreak away from foster families. And we assist our local child welfare department at every turn. But now we need your help. We need to fund more peer mentors. Our wait list is long. We need you, when you talk to foster families, to champion the idea of adopting the whole family for life. Champion reunification as the first and best option for the majority of children. And with us, reimagine foster care, not as replacing a family, but as restoring one. I return in my mind often to that first visitation. Those 4 children, now my godchildren, knocking their mother down with love. Her tears, their arms wrapped around her. That moment taught me something I had been missing. We don't have to replace families. We can restore them. And when we do, children go home, moms rise, foster families heal, and cycles of generational trauma break. In closing, I'd like you to consider what a foster child once said to her foster mom. "I knew you loved me, not because you took care of me, but because you never gave up on my mom." That's what happens. That's what happens when we adopt the whole family for life. Thank you.